We staying?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we should.
I hope you don't.
Everyone,
I'm just, this leg has to be turned forward. So I'm like, I'm actually, but I don't, sorry.
right, we're live, so we'll make a start. Good morning, everyone. Welcome, committee members, members of the public and staff. Welcome back to this first meeting of the year for SWPC. Had a wonderful break and have had some time to rest, relax, cook, and have some fun at the same time. As we launch into this first meeting of the year, please ensure that your devices and your cell phones are either switched off or on silent mode. That's for everyone here this morning whilst the meeting is in progress. So if a cell phone interrupts the course of the meeting, well, stop and wait for advice. This meeting is being held in the supplement room of the Waihinga Centre, Martin Murray Town Hall. It is being live streamed and will be available to view on Council's YouTube channel. The emergency exits for this room are the door you came in and the exit behind me. If we do need to evacuate the building, please use one of these exits and assemble outside by the playground. Please remain at the assembly area until the building has been confirmed clear. And in the event that we experience any unruly or escalating behaviour during the course of this meeting, we will adjourn until it's safe for us to reconvene. And I certainly hope that that is not necessary this morning. Members of the council, members in the committee will and staff will congregate in the area behind me if this action is necessary. With those bits of the formality out of the way, please, members of the committee, please stand and we will open with a karakia.
Kia whakapapa pauna mu te moana, e huarahi mā tātou, I te rangi nei, aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou ia tātou katoa, uie tai hie.
Yeah, thank you. Apologies. This morning we have apologies for lateness from Councillor Podley and apologies for being unwell from Councillor Plymouth. Do I have someone to accept these apologies? Councillor Gray and a seconder, Councillor Elams. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against, no. Motion is carried. Are there any conflicts of interest to be held this morning, please? Being none, we'll move on to acknowledgements and tributes. Any acknowledgements?
I've got a couple. So the first one is for the passing of Kay Mills, who is a long-standing Martinborough local through and through, and she was one of the founding members of MAGCAPS, which is our Martinborough and District's company of amateur players, who have performed here in the Town Hall in Waihinga Centre for many years. And she also helped to organise a lot of our Christmas parades, anything to do with the community. She was always involved and she will be sadly missed. And the other one was for Ray Thompson, who was, he set up Tirohana Vineyard, so he and his family, and unfortunately just found out his passing. He was on the board of the Hauriki Marae committee, was one of our trustees there in the 90s. And he had the most amazing colourful past, and you just need to go into Tirohana and they will take you through like his amazing life, including being in Edison Lighthouse. So, you know, he's a well-known international musician, playwright. The things that he's done over his life is fantastic, and again, his presence will be missed here within the town, and his work that he set up for Asperger's as well. Just wanted to mention that too.
Sure.
So, moi mai.
In particular, a bit of work is at a close association with our, so definitely was highlights and then the minute.
So Mahina,
Namana.
so she's the creating now Kohanga Reo e Kurakai
Papa.
and Wairapa throughout the war. And also over the Christmas period, Fitu, he sits on the Multistate Committee, so his dad passed. And just before that, Lee Kavaina's mum passed away.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yes, an acknowledgement to Mike Gray of Greytown, a previous councillor many years and community board member for many years, who was awarded in the King's New Year's Honours.
Oh.
Any other acknowledgements? Thank you, everyone. Someone to be celebrated and also some deep losses in the community to reflect on. So thank you for this hearing. We'll now move on to public participation. Presenters have 5 minutes to speak to the committee, including question time. When you get to 4 minutes, Amy will raise your hand to signal that you have a minute left. And at 5 minutes, I will let you know that your time for speaking has come to an end. If possible, we do ask our public participants to allow us 30 seconds or a minute at the end of the questions, but you use your time as you see fit. So our first public participant this morning is Raina. If you could join us at the front, that would be fantastic.
Yes, going to the slot here.
Welcome,
Raina,
Raina.
I have been a Phillipston resident for 22 years, and I've been in South for 37. So I know the area and I know a lot of things about what has been going on in the past. I'm a cyclist and I use mainly Murphy's Lane and also Underhill Road. And I find the situation on Underhill Road still too dangerous. Even with the extra cycle track, the speed limit currently is still 100. I was told by Alistair that it might come down to 80 after the discussions you've had. But still 80 is too fast, I reckon. It should, in my reckoning, it should be 50 or 60 or something like that. Because it's the second half of the road is gravel. And if you go 80 on gravel, that's fairly dangerous. The first part, 100 kilometre part, is tar seal. And it's 5.5 meters wide. And big vehicles can be up to 3 meters wide. I need 1.5 meters myself because I'm cycling and I'm sort of weaving a little bit, so I need about that much. That's 4.5 meters. And they have to keep a distance of 1.5 meters from me, the big vehicles. And when you calculate that through, there's only 1 meter available. So I've been nearly clipped by large vehicles. One of them was Peter Warren's transport company that ride the quarry on that road. And I've rung Peter, and we had 2 discussions. And he said, please report to me. All drivers have been told to slow down for cyclists. And if they don't do that, they will be fired. So hopefully that is under control. I've been nearly clipped by GoBus, even though I've been a driver there myself for 1 year. And I caught up with them and reported that to management because that vehicle is 3 meters wide and that's the problem we have. So the gravel part, the cycle track next to the gravel road, we sort of in and out a little bit. So you come fairly close and then you have 3 points where you actually share with large vehicles. And I think that should be reduced by speed limit. So at the end of that road, we have 4 of these orange signs. I've got 2, so I can pass by side. At the end of the road, we have 4 of these signs, and 3 of them actually pointing in the wrong direction. They're pointing in the direction of returning traffic from the river or from Bucks Road from the camp. It's only one sign that's just short before Bucks Road intersection, which incoming traffic from outside the district, perhaps visitors also can see. So people are not necessarily aware what type of road it is. They leave Featherston at 50 and then they can switch to 100 and they hoof it, they go for it. And then suddenly we have that situation where they find a cyclist. So I have here another picture. So doing that in. That's the beginning of, that's the change from 50 to 100 currently. And there is no sign advising motorists of this. And I want a couple of orange signs put up there, or alternatively, one of those big yellow ones we have on the Taonika Bridge and also the Wahinga Bridge, saying 40 k's if cyclists are present. And I'm just repeating the text, but I'm not happy with cyclists only. It should be people, because it could be runners, dog walkers. Yeah, 1 minute, okay, and cyclists and horse riders as well. That's my suggestion to make it safer.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any questions for Rain this morning from councillors? So that's questions of clarification, councillor.
So what you're asking for is a reduction in the speed on Underhill Road.
Yeah.
Is that your main request?
My wish, yes, but I know you have discussed it already, and it can't be reduced further than 80. I was told by Alistair, but my wish would be for the Christmas that it goes down to.
So you were told by Alistair? Oh, okay, right, yeah,
He invited me to come here and speak,
right,
and unfortunately, he's.
well, yeah, okay.
So I'd like to leave with you a little bit more paperwork. That's the newspaper that was printed in the Times Age in November 2021. It's Alistair's.
That's lovely. Thank you very much for your presentation, and we will consider your suggestions later.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Over to councillor Elam's a moment.
A moment. You're right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The next public
21.
participation is from Michael Smith. Michael, if you could join us in front, please. As per our previous speaker, you have 5 minutes to present to the committee, including question time, and Amy will raise her hand at 4 minutes. I believe that Amy's got a presentation behind me as well.
Beautiful. So I'm here to talk about Lake Ferry Road above Tomotomo, where we've been doing some work. Now, the work started on November 4th. It's supposed to cost $150,000. It's supposed to be done in 4 weeks. Today it's day 100. So we are well over our scheduled date. On the 1st, I notified the council about this log that's hanging out. At the top end. In my opinion, that should have been the area where we reclaimed some of the gravel. I'm not saying all of it, but the hill that went down the side. Now, this is since you guys have gone out November 1st, and that's been worn away. Now, in the 92-page Lagoima request that I got from the council, there's a bunch of pictures and things in there, but it was explained to me that once Fulton Hogan went out, they determined that that was not a danger to the community. You'll be able to see from further back, it's quite high up above the road. Also in my request, I was asking about whether the actual surface, the road surface of the road would be redone, and they said that it wasn't in the budget. yet the whole downhill side lane has been redone. This is the top of the road here, and this is the work that they started on 4th. And as you can see, it's already falling away. I've gone all the way down the road, and it's similar all the way down. At the bottom of the pictures, you'll be able to see footprints. Now, we haven't had any rain out there in quite a while, so that shows you how soft. They're fresh footprints from cattle, and it shows you just how soft it is. Now, there was supposed to be a guardrail already in there, and there's not. So we've had all of our Christmas traffic, all of our Waitangi Day traffic, everything passing through there. When they wrote the article about my first conversation about this road, they expressed that my worry was that it wouldn't be done for Christmas, and it hasn't been done. And the work that's been done is, in my mind, it's not up to standard. It's already fallen away, and they're not even completed with the project. Now, I'll explain to you one of the reasons why that might be happening. A bunch of the rubbish, the brush was right up to the edge of the roadway. And all that brush, and I pass that multiple times a week, 2 to 3 times a day, every week. So it's about 80 times that I calculated while they were up there that I passed that. And not once did I see a tree taking out brush / rubbish. So what they've done is they've taken all that brush and all that slash, and they've put it and buried it down the bottom. And further down, you can see some of the photos where it's actually sticking out. Now, it looks like they've taken the tannalized posts and some of the guardrail and used it as somewhat of a retaining wall. However, those posts are either broken or damaged or slightly rotting away. Now, I don't know what the requirements are for disposing of tannalized posts, but I don't think it's burying it underneath our roadways. To me, this is absolutely unacceptable. So I'm here today to ask you guys to have some accountability and have some and ask for accountability from our contractors. Because in my mind, it's not acceptable. This is going to fall away in time. And especially with all the slash that's been buried underneath, that's going to compact over time. It's going to break down. It's going to rot. Now, this is the drainage that they've put in, and they've left some trees there so it won't erode underneath. It typically, what I like to see. Sorry, I'll just stop with this. Can I carry on, please?
Okay.
It's very distracting. This happened last time with Mr. Mayor as well. I was trying to present, and then somebody was having a conversation during my presentation. All right, I'm going to try to be calm, but this is the second time that this has happened in a row. I'm taking time out of my day. I took time to go and take these photos. I'm taking time to address this, and this should have been addressed by you guys. You guys need to go and talk to these contractors and say this is not appropriate. Just like our lights. They're not done yet. I understand you guys are going to talk about that later, about how they've gone into receivership, but you guys are the ones that vet our contractors to put these things in. We're paying for this, and I'd like to see some accountability for how our money is being spent. Because in my mind, this is unacceptable, and I don't want to do that. I'm finished up if anybody has any questions.
Violet, you've got a question?
Check, because as a landowner, shareholder in those blocks alongside that road, I've got an issue with the work that was done today.
Yeah, so
Become
just questions of clarification at this point. So any questions of clarification from Michael? Aidan?
I don't have a question, but I'll just say, Michael, that as part of some of the reporting that's come through to me from council staff, I've got some comments here that the work was started in December. I don't have a timeline as to how long that work is to be or take will be completed, but I'll ask a question.
It was November 4th. I pass it every single day. Every single day. And when I lodged the complaint about the log up the top on November the 1st, when the guy showed up, I asked him, "Oh, are you here to take out the stump?" They said no. And it took me over 11 days, over a dozen emails, and 2 stops into the council until I finally had to contact Bolton Hogan. And that's when I finally got somebody to go out and got a return email.
thank you for your presentation. Your time is finished, but we will consider and find out some more information about this as morning progresses. Thank you very much.
Amy, can you put me into the next one as well, please? I'll see. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. I just-
With a good point. It's been, I say, use the brush.
So Amy's just telling me we may have some technical difficulties with the sharing of this morning to our YouTube channel. So it sounds like it's been recorded, but it may not be transmitting live. That. I have Jim on the list next to me. Yeah. Jim is here. Oh, I haven't had any. So we did have a third public participant, but he is not here, so we will move on with our agenda, which takes us to urgent business. We do have a piece of urgent business. It is the appointment report from Dame Fran Weil, Destination Wairakā. It is the future of the economic development proposal, and sorry, so I'm proposing to accept the appointment report from Ms. Wild and add to the agenda to be discussed at item 11.6. The report is late as it was thought it would form part of the overall economic development update, but this isn't the case. It cannot be delayed until the next scheduled meeting as the issues raised in the report may influence future investment planning into economic development as part of the LTP. Do I second it, please? Yes. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against, no. Motion is accepted. Right, moving right along, item 7, minutes for confirmation. So first up, we have the Greytown Water Services deliberation minutes. So we are considering those minutes from the 13th of November. Are there any corrections to the set minutes that need to be made, please?
Is this the strategy working committee meeting?
No, these are the Greytown Water Services.
They're not the first ones on there.
They're strategy. But it was for, sorry, so they are SWC minutes, but they were specifically for the deliberation of the Greytown citizens. So that item 7 points dated 30th November.
I'm happy to.
Sorry, I just quickly, I do have something there, because I was running late and didn't make this one. So it says that I seconded the resolution to accept my apologies. Yeah. So I thought,
Favor of you.
I know.
You had.
Yeah, but I was just running late. I wasn't, because I did come.
That's fine. We will get that corrected. Any other corrections to that set of minutes, please? That being the case, can I have a mover? Councillor Olds and sorry, me Martin, are you happy to see your hand?
No.
No. And a seconder, please. Okay. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against, no. The motion is carried. Then we are moving on to item 7.2, the strategy working committee meeting minutes from the same date, the 13th of November. Any corrections that need to be made, please?
Action 128. Members requested a breakdown of the costs in relation to the work undertaken to address the Greytown wastewater. I actually asked for a detailed breakdown of the costs. What's the breakdown, which we still haven't got a detailed breakdown of costs.
Any other corrections to that set of minutes, please? In that case, can I have a mover, please? Councillor Gray and a seconder for approving the minutes. Councillor Elams, thank you. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against, no. Motion is carried. Looking for any matters arising from those previous minutes, please. No, that being the case, we will move on to item 9, report backs and updates from the Multi-Standing Committee and Community Boards. Do we have any reports for you this morning?
The Martinborough Community Board meeting is tomorrow, so we will be reporting back on the next one.
So councillor updates later, but Representative Storm, you're not here to report, no? And perfect. Nothing else? Wonderful. We're zooming through this morning. Item 10, decision reports and from the Chief Executive and staff. Our first report is item 10.1, Lake Ferry Wastewater Treatment Plant re-consenting. Isha, if you'd like to join us at the table, that would be fantastic. Take the report as read, but could you please take us through any sort of highlights, important key elements for discussion?
Thank you. The important notes probably for the Lake Ferry plant consenting is that the population that is going to be connected is not going to grow to beyond 92 properties. And I think I remember some of the previous discussions, council records, that was part of this catchment, is that the Lake Ferry community wanted to retain the cosy, small seaside character. So if that was on people's minds, I just want to relay that. That's not really part of the report, but some additional discussion here. As an engineer, I'm glad to say that the Lake Ferry wastewater treatment plant is our most advanced wastewater treatment plant asset, and produces.
I feel like we're all pleased to hear that advanced and fully in a sentence with wastewater treatment.
Exactly, I just deliver a bit of a spot. So the proposal, I guess, in a nutshell, is to keep doing what we're doing and apply for a reconsent on that basis. The land disposal field at the top was reviewed, and it was concluded that the ground capacity for irrigation to the soils up there could take more as a percentage of moisture, and so that has led to the conclusion and the recommendation that the new consent request an allowance to go from 38% of moisture level up to 50%. So a small increase there, and that just allows the 1 in 20 storm event to be received into the system and not go into the wetland, which is sort of the backup disposal route, but one which is as very much as a contingency. So I just note that the 1 in 20 storm event is by today's standards, and in the future, with accounting for climate change, it's more likely to be 1 in 10-year event. But either way, so the consent application will use that analysis of science to make that context clear to the consent. I viewed the long list in discussions with the associated consultants and technical specialists, and was pretty keen to push the option of making a promise to review the inflow and infiltration, which arises by either illegal connections or low gully traps. A survey has been carried out a couple of times in the last 5 or 10 years. So another point I'd just like to make is that in consultation with the community, I will be, I guess, asking for a little bit of appreciation that if we can avoid the flow of rainwater and stormwater into the system, then it does everybody good, and it will further reduce the ability of the system if we continue to essentially allow stormwater to be tipped into its catch pits and pumped up to the top of the hill. So, so that would be, I guess, a political item. Consideration and feedback. If you had heard maybe some people again the idea of the council coming in and suggesting that haunching around gully pits, gully traps rather, and diversions of that sort would need to be made. Hopefully solidarity can prevail to allow that to happen without us. And other than those, that the alternatives that were considered did go into some expense, and those expenses are detailed in this report. Such considerations of increasing the disposal field onto an adjoining hill, which was not preferred, as well as taking pipe from the outlet of the wetland all the way down and into Lake Inoki, also not preferred, instead retaining the current idea, which is go through the wetland and then in that contingency event, 1 in 10 years, that effluent would then flow through the gravels and into Lake Inoki. So the idea behind piping it was just to address perhaps some concerns about contact with effluent in that 1 in 10 year event. And it was kind of viewed, and there's detailed analysis there, viewed that basically that wouldn't address human health risk in a way sufficient to pursue that extra piping. That's pretty much it from me. Is there any?
Thank you. Thorough as always, Peter. Councillor Elams, Councillor Old, and then we've got flurry of hands in this direction as well, but we'll start there.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for the report, Peter. So these 92 properties at Lake Ferry, is there going to be a consultation process with the property owners down there?
So the answer is yes, and I guess part of this report I'm asking for your permission to begin that consultation process. The last report I had back was an arranged meeting tomorrow for iwi, and Mary and I will discuss that. I'm not sure that's been confirmed, but following this, we confirm that. And then subsequent to that, the proposal is an in-person discussion at the Lake Ferry Hotel for the community, as well as further remote, internet teams. I'm not sure which, for any that aren't able to make it down to the Lake Ferry Hotel or be interested. So that would be the proposal.
And that's so that process is starting now, and the consultation is there a set time for the consultation? Because the resource consent expires 6 months away.
Yeah, so the resource consent expires in September. In order to be in lockstep with the renewal of that proposal, this new consent at the end of March, by the end of March. So both dates for public consultation, I think, the 25th of February. So
thanks
with communication through our comms team out to residents.
Thanks.
Thanks, Peter. Just a little bit of clarification from my perspective. I understand some properties are still connected to a septic tank system there. Not all properties are connected to the reticulating system. Is that correct? Or
I think you're right, Colin. Just in Preseed, all properties are connected to a septic tank, and the outlet of that septic tank either goes into this system or goes into their own disposal field. And as I understand it, there's a development on the, I guess, on the Martinborough side of Lake Ferry, close to the shore, which might, I'd have to check into it, but I think still be on their own land disposal system.
If that's the case, are there plans to integrate them into a reticulated system in the future? Is that something that we've looked at? Or?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'll check into that.
Okay. No problem.
See if there's usually some sort of, the bylaw as a compulsion aspect to, if there's a service network available within 50 metres, held to connect. I'm not sure that's been pursued.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. So I think Councillor Woodcock and Perhaps councillor Maynard, do you?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Peter. Face that we have in-house expertise nowadays. Just a question on the upping the moisture level to the soil. I know that residents have been looked at certain issues coming out of the bank and slips and stuff. Is there any worry that that might make these situations a little bit worse, or?
I asked that very same question, councillor, to the consultants, because it's clear that there have been anecdotal reports of water leaping out of the hillside, and was reassured that I guess geotechnically or based on the soil composition and the deposit rates, that couldn't have been treated effluent. That said, you know, it looks like it does. Like it does.
I've been here and smelt it, and I'm pretty sure it had some sort of effect. But
Okay.
the other question, the option 4 with the additional 2.7 hectares of land on nearby hill, is that not the recommended option purely because of cost? Or is there other reasons why that's not the recommended option?
The main, I'll probably take personal responsibility for that one. The main reason that's not recommended is because I didn't believe it added value, and then that's apparent through the multi-criteria analysis, is that the extra expense and complexity and land ownership arrangements and serviceability basically weren't warranted, given the belief by the specialists that the existing land disposal area was capable of taking the expected flows. And compounded to that, I guess, was a personal pursuit that if those current expected flows are based on storm events, where the data is very clear that the flow goes up very quickly and comes back very quickly, which is a bit of a smoking gun for water inflow into the system, not infiltration through the pipes, but basically being tipped in.
Yeah.
Then if that was resolved, we would have even less reason to go across the other side of the hill and cover that adjoining plateau with disposal. So, yeah, I believe it's not a good option.
Thank you. That was a very thorough answer, councillor Maynard, and then
Kia ora. Thank you very much for this report. It's been really interesting reading, and I just had a couple of questions with regards to the wetland discharge. So I'm assuming that when that was originally done, that had mana whenua consent, or you spoke to them with regards to that,
During the original,
that wetland?
I really hope so, but I can't confirm that. I think we can both assume.
And when you said that you were meeting with iwi, is it iwi or is it with mana whenua? Is this meeting taking place at Kohanui Marae, and what time is it? So
the intent would be to have it online, and the previous meeting on site with, yes, but who did she meet?
Yeah, 44.
Oh, yeah.
Canberra. All of them, and approve the name, make it like Zimmery.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure if I was allowed to do that, but Narita provided detailed.
Yeah. No, it's just so, just so we're aware, because, you know, of course, you've had Kohanui Marae out there, and a lot of them know about that area. So they know well what you know, what with regards to drainage and things like that. And they're a really good place to start. So I think possibly it may be good to have a put it all with them.
Agreed. And one thing I did notice is that the adjoining areas around the land disposal and the wetland are all areas of significance and
Yes.
designated as such. And
Yep.
so that has been taken into account in the pursuit of the renewal so far. Apologise for missaid iwi versus mana whenua.
No, that's good. That's good. Just making sure that there's just note our Kohanui representative wasn't there.
councillor Maynard.
Yeah, that was.
Oh, sorry, councillor.
Oh,
Meeting.
Yeah, we look very similar.
Yeah, you do. That is-
actually, my comment was fairly similar too, because, yeah, I was, well, just concerned that the local knowledge we was going to use there because they, are very aware of the land. And I'm not aware of any recent opposition to the existing system, the use of that. Has there been? There's not been any.
No. It's been accepted as a functional part of the South Wairarapa District Council wastewater system for quite some time.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Then
Councillor.
Been around for ages.
Under the considerations, you've got a nod to climate change, saying that there's no positive or negative effects on climate change from the decision. So I take it that's meaning that the solution, that what you've suggested, is not likely to increase carbon emissions or methane emissions. But I think if we're talking about climate change as a consideration, we should probably broaden that out to, is this an adaptive strategy for the council? And is it robust in the face of climate change? Probably a bit late to shoehorn that into the report now, but I think going forward, especially when we're talking about infrastructure, water infrastructure, even remotely coastal, I think it has to not only talk about mitigation, but also adaptation and climate change considerations.
Nothing springs to mind, Councillor Gray. I think the concern might be for the coastal community of sea level rise becoming an inundation risk into the but as I understand it from the assessment, that the levels are above the level of the system and the intakes into the system, the septic tanks are still above predicted sea level rise for Lake Inoki in the consent period anyway. So that's, I guess that's the reason why I can't put anything in that.
No, this is just the first report that we're looking at today, but there's other reports coming up today that will be saying pretty much the same thing, just about this under considerations that go into all of our reports. It often says no positive or negative effects on climate change, which is like how are we deciding that? What's the metrics for it?
It's probably scope 1 emissions only, I dare say.
Yeah.
Directly related, i.e. you're not going to be pumping any further or higher or faster or harder. Or less hard, it's just going to be status quo for scope 1 emissions.
Okay, thank you very much. Any final questions for Peter before we move to the resolutions? Right, that being the case, I am looking for a mover, please, to receive the Lake Ferry wastewater treatment plant reconsenting option report and to approve option 2 to develop the resource consent application for Lake Ferry wastewater treatment plant, consisting of upgrades to the pre-anoxic blend tank and textile filters to increase capacity, additional UV, and to have it run continuously rather than just for wetland discharge, connection of soil moisture probes to the plant control system. The plant operation will be changed to increase the soil moisture limit for land irrigation from 38% to 30%, installation of a dedicated pipeline from the treated effluent tank to the wetland, and control system changes to run it when the soil moisture reading exceeds the limit of 50%. Inflow and infiltration reduction in the Lake Ferry wastewater network to exclude stormwater from the sewage and reduce treated effluent discharge volumes. Councillor Elams, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Old, fantastic. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against, no. Motion is carried. That moves us to item 10.2, the appointments review report.
Okay.
Thank you, Peter. Welcome.
Morning, councillors.
please take the report as read, but could you highlight or key considerations for us?
And shall keep it brief. This was initiated very late last year in response to the increasing numbers of external appointments that the Deputy Mayor appointments to committees, forgive me, that the Deputy Mayor had been assigned, and there was appetite within the councillor cohort to discuss how some of that pressure may be alleviated moving forward for the remainder of the triennium. So that is the purpose of this paper today.
And as the paper is about the appointments that I carry, I would just point out that if when we are discussing potential reallocation of those, that it would, to my mind, makes sense for me to continue with the water-related appointments. And they all, as we discussed before, they are all interrelated. They all make sense. Any questions or pools?
Are we looking for volunteers here right now? What is the next step here? Is it?
Yeah, so Paul, I initially was appointed to the Featherston Community Board as a representative on there. I stood down because of other pressures. However, I think to relieve the pressure for Melissa, I'd be quite happy to step back into that role so that she can perhaps have it, even though I don't like the evening meetings. But yeah.
Thank you, Councillor.
So the other off the top of my head, the other appointments we would be looking at is the Regional Transport Committee and Civil Defence and Emergency Management Committee. Councillor Boswell.
Oh, I was going to ask about the CEO Employment Committee. So I'm quite happy to sort of step into that one if that's of assistance.
Yes, I'm more than happy to take on the Civil Defence Emergency Management Group, and I can explain a couple of reasons why I think that's probably a good idea.
Okay.
If anyone wants to know.
Yeah, feel free.
Okay, well, the mayor is the person who calls a civil defence, and management group is one of the ways information can be updated, etc. And I think it makes a lot of sense for the mayor to be part of that.
Okay.
I'd also be quite happy to put my hat in the ring for the CDM role, mostly because I have the portfolio lead for community and climate change and environment.
I'm just taking some notes before to come back and make some decisions. Councillor Bosley.
Alistair, who's the Regional Transport Committee.
So by my calculation, that would are the ones that we're looking at. Do we need to take a vote on the ones that just have one suggested new appointee? Do we need to vote on each of those? Good. We'll do things formally. FCA. So we have Councillor Olds has suggested he would move into the Featherston Community Board appointment. Can I have? Happy to move that.
Sorry, with the exception of, I understand they have one tonight, which I can't make. So with the exception of that.
Councillor Elams.
I was just going to say that I'm happy to remain as the alternates for the Wellington Water Committee, Regional Leadership Committee, CDM, and the Regional Transport. I just can't put my hand up to take any of those roles or any other positions from you, sorry.
Is this just for councillors?
It will just be councillors for these ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to put my hat in the ring for the Transport Committee too.
Perfect. Right, so what we'll do is we'll take the FCB, so I'm happy to move Colin as the new appointee for FCB. Do I have a second? Thank you. All those in favour of Colin being the FCB appointee, please raise your hands. All those against, no. Carried.
You'll be sorely missed and you're still invited to attend. Anytime you like.
Yeah, that one's the hard one to let go, but
Is it?
yes,
Sometimes we have lollies. So.
Oh, yeah, lollies.
Yeah.
Don't put my hands around.
PE Employment Review Committee, Councillor Bosley has nominated himself for that one. Happy to move that. Do we have a seconder, please? Councillor Gray. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against, no. Motion is carried. See. RTC. Sorry, just conferring around which is the best way to do. So RTC and CDM have two nominees. We're just conferring that the best way to do that is a show of hands. So you'll put your hand up for your preferred appointee, and it will be that person with the majority that will become the. So the first one is Regional Transport Committee. We have two nominees, Councillor Plummer and Councillor Woodcock. So I will abstain from votes on these, but if you would like, you are allowed to vote for yourself, I'm sure. So first of all, Councillor Plummer, if you're in favour of his appointment, please put your hand up. That's two, so Councillor Old, Councillor Bosley. Those in favour of Councillor Woodcock taking that position, please raise your hand.
It's got the job.
That's a majority. So Councillor Woodcock, you will take that position. Thank you. CDEM, again, we have two nominees, Vinia and Councillor Gray. So we will we'll go, all those in favour of Vinia taking the appointment back, please raise your hand. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is the majority. So we won't vote again. Thank you. We need a resolution. Sorry. So we need to. Yeah. So to finalise that, we need a mover, please, to receive the appointment review report, review the current appointments for elected members, which we've just done, and confirm that Councillor Olds will be appointed FCB, Councillor Bosley, the Review Committee, Councillor Woodcock, the RTC, and Mayor Connolly to CDEM. Have a mover, please. Thank you. And Councillor Maynard is seconder. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. All those against, no. Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, everyone, for your willingness to take some pressure. Oh, yeah. Moving along to item 11.1, the Chief Executive's update. Janice.
Yeah, I will take the report as read. As I've said in previous reports, I'm trying to keep these more short and focused and not duplicating information going elsewhere. Obviously, the big thing that's we're working through at the moment is the long-term plan and the local water's done well. Statement from the Chief Executive references both of those in the consultations that are coming. In terms of work plan updates, the representation review, we went through hearings yesterday. We're now in the hands of the commissioners with outcomes expected in April. Key performance indicators, at one of the last meetings, we adopted the balanced scorecard approach to performance management, and the team are working through what that looks like, especially with the auditors at the moment for the long-term plan. And we will be commencing the local body elections process very shortly and issuing information through to all of you around what does that mean for being at this table and how we manage things, working our way through to October. Legislative updates, there is only the one resource management amendment bill. We have current consultations on the water services amendment bill. At the moment, we are running with the support of Cytura and Local Government New Zealand as being the submitters on those processes, so we are not intending to independently submit. Got a lot of work in the local waters done well space, and I didn't want to divert the team unless there was something significant we needed to report on. We had yesterday come through the central government work plan for the first quarter, so we have eyes on the things that will be coming through the process in due course. Obviously, the big consultations we've got towards the end of this month and through March are for the long-term plan and the local waters done well. We are doing everything we can to those concurrently, but it depends on the work programme for the project team, whether they can make that work. I'm hoping that they can, but it is a very tight timetable for them to turn that around. Then there's a short update on the Marlborough wastewater treatment plant abatement notice. The desludging tender's been awarded or is being awarded this month, and we should see that commence shortly.
Questions?
Yeah. I'm just, I guess my biggest question is, why has it taken so long? I think it's the question that a lot of ratepayers from that have known with regards to the desludging and the fact that, you know, been 2 years, and like why has this process taken to this point where we're only just now getting someone, you know, to look at it? I'm quite disappointed with the length of time, and I'd just like to put that on the table here for an answer.
People are looking at me, so I will continue to answer that question, councillor. I think it's fair to say that the council shares the disappointment around this table at the length of time it's taken to have this work done, and for our part in that, I apologise. You know, there are some processes that we could have done in terms of early on in the process, in terms of funding approvals that perhaps could have been done faster. But the bulk of the delays that we've experienced in this have come from Wellington Water. That's the reality. The length of time it's taken to have the right reports done in order to support work. The length of time that the procurement process has taken within Wellington Water has been incredibly long. And all the way through that, the council has pushed at every level to have things done faster. We certainly haven't taken our foot off the gas, but we've been, but we are where we are. So, we share your frustration. We hope to see the work start imminently, and we.
And then what's the process like? Do we have a time frame on how long this will actually take now? So once it actually gets started, do we know how long this is going to take for it to be?
Yes, we do. We have information on that, and happy to publish that so that it's publicly available. Once it does start, councillor, once the contract is in place and working, then it doesn't take long at all. It's just been the lead up to that has been long.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that clarification.
Thank you for raising the question, because you're certainly not alone in your frustration in this project. Councillor Elams, then Councillor.
I'd just like to, thanks, Chair, reiterate that in a meeting that that some of us had with the Wellington Water staff towards the end of last year, Chair raised the point with Wellington Water, used the term that this project has been glacially slow.
That's been terrible.
Wellington Water staff
Terrible.
pushed back and argued the point that it had not been. And then we added, shared a bit more information with them, and that we had provided, that this council had earmarked and provided $500,000 worth of funding in our first annual plan of our triennium. And, you know, there was funding allocated at that stage, and yet we still weren't where we wanted to be. So, like Stefan has commented, both the staff have been pushing it, councillors have been pushing it with Wellington Water as well. And I'd just like to your question about the process in my portfolio lead report, which is going to be presented a bit later on. There's comment there that the desludging process for Martin Borough Wastewater Treatment Plant will be about approximately 16 weeks timeframe, and then once that's finished, then the process will start over at Greytown Wastewater Treatment Plant. So we've got that information there on the report, which we tabled later.
Okay, Councillor Woodcock.
Next Chair asked you when it was starting, and we're allowed to know who's on the tender.
When will the work start and who has the tender?
Who won the tender?
Do we have that information to hand?
I'll provide that.
Provide it. Thank you very much. Any further questions for Janice this morning? No, thank you for.
Thanks, Janice.
Yes. Got it.
Right, that moves us to our information report, economic development and growth. We've received a request to swap the order of things. So I believe that we're going to move to the Wairarapa Economic Development Quarterly Reporting with Matt and Tash.
Hang on. Is this?
So it is item 11.3.
And the extras, is that the work program and the activity update?
Yeah.
The words.
In the WNZ?
It's a word.
Yeah, it was a comprehensive report.
Comprehensive, not the word.
Yeah.
Good morning, Matt. Good morning, Tash. Thank you for joining us this morning. Invite you to speak to your report and add anything that you feel needs evidence.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for having us. Always appreciate the time. I think the last time that we spoke to this committee was about 6 months ago, at the time that the MOU was being set up for the new operational model and priorities area for the delivery of the Wairarapa Economy Development Strategy Work Program. So I'll probably do a bit of a recap of what we've been up to since then in terms of the implementation of the new model and the new priorities. Then I'll speak to what we've delivered under work plan. And then I'll also touch on other Wellington MZ activities, excuse me, across the Wairarapa as part of our regional economic development program across the Greater Wellington region, including Wairarapa. So when I was last here online, we were talking about the MOU. So the MOU has subsequently been signed by all three councils with a 3-year commitment from Carterton District Council and Masterton District Council for the duration of the MOU until this financial year, the next one and the one after that. And a support commitment from this council with a 1-year funding commitment with the subsequent 2 years, depending on the LTP process that we'll be going through this year. So subsequent to the MOU being agreed around July, if I recall correctly, we started appointing the new steering group and set the group up alongside the 3 priority focus areas. So the 3 areas are the water resilience, which is lacking in some areas and is a barrier to economic development activity across the entire region. Food and fiber, which is also an important sector region-wide, and then workforce development and skills, which obviously are key to any economic development activity. So with that in mind, we've set up a steering group which is well suited to the size of the work program as well. So there's $215,000 coming from the 3 councils collectively, including $75,000 from this council for the year. Wellington NZ matches that amount in people resources. So we provide 50% of the budget, and then we leverage funding from other sources. This was particularly successful last year. We leveraged $1.8 million, mostly from central government funding. I'm not going to make the promise that we'll be that successful every year, but as the regional agency, we leverage our connections into central government for the benefits of the wider region and the Wairarapa region in particular. The steering group has representation from the 3 councils through their economic development representatives. At the moment, this is filled in by Paul. Thank you, Paul, for your service, stepping in for Rob Thomas, whilst I understand the recruitment process is ongoing. And we've got Glenda Saville from Cardston and Matt Steele from Masterton as well. We have 2 iwi representatives. Tony Kerr just joined the group for Natika Nono. Tony lives here in Martinborough. We've got Rangitania represented through Joe Hayes, that I believe everybody knows. And central governments through Shane Ratt, who's based in Greytown. And then we've got representatives from the business sector, Marie-Claire Andrews, who's the chair of Business Wairarapa, for small business, and then Joe Hayes for water as well, as part of the Water Resilience Governance Group, and representative for skills, Dale Williams, who is obviously the founder of Mayoral Task Force for Jobs nationwide some years ago, and at the moment a vacant position for the primary sector, and we hopefully, fingers crossed, are just about to confirm someone in this position, which we're very excited about. The steering group has been working well. We've had 3 meetings, and they have reaffirmed their support for the focus areas, which is excellent and has enabled us to move from the establishment phase more into delivery. We've also had a slight change in personnel. I'm very pleased that Natasha Kidd, who's sitting right here next to me, is the new program manager. Tash just started in January, not with us in this role, but she's been active with the program for 3.5 years.
Congratulations.
And for those of you who know Tash, Tash is wonderful and extremely effective. So I'm very pleased that Tash accepted the role. And so is the steering group, actually. We did consult with the 3 council representatives, and all were very supportive of Tash's appointment. So that's what we've been up to in terms of setting up the delivery for the new operating model. That's happened over the first half of the year. And we've also started delivering. So if I move to what's been going on during Q1 and Q2 in terms of delivering the work program, starting with water, you will all be familiar with the Wairarapa Water Resilience Governance Group and work program. So there is a part-time program director, Julie Marks, who's funded by Greater Wellington Regional Council as a 0.5 FTE, and a pretty ambitious work program across 5 pillars. And it's probably fair to say that it needs significantly more resources to actually activate, those pillars. One in particular is of direct interest to economic development, and that's the need for water and the supply thereof. Those 2 things are important together, because you can't just supply more water, you also have to look at how can you save some somewhere. So that's been identified as key for economic development. And through the work program, we've been able to provide some funding to activate a specific project to progress this by the end of the financial year. So there's been money allocated to this, and Greater Wellington Regional Council has also come to the party to actually increase Yeni's time from I believe a 0.5 FTE to what is now a 0.7 FTE. So actually quite a decent amount of hours every week, plus this project team being built. So the next step for that by the end of the year is to present back to councils and probably the public as well, I would imagine, what the status of supply and demand for water, including processed water, as well as potable and for agricultural use, what the level is, and then obviously there will be a lot more work to do. So hopefully this is something that will come back to you all as councillors. Still in the water side of things, it's dubbed the summer series. It's really a peer-to-peer learning program for people in the primary sector to look at water use and other land uses that impact water use. It's 3 events. The first one was in Featherstone just before Christmas at Kauai Dairies and focused on electrification. I think solar power. That's quite inspiring to the rest of the Wairarapa region. That was really well attended. I think we had 18 different businesses and over 50 people actually joining that particular session. Next one's next week here in Martinborough.
Richard Cooshaw's property.
And it's focused on
Specialist seed production.
And then there will be one more later on looking at deep bore options as well. The last area in water is focused on processed water supply to the Wainawa industrial estate, which is obviously at the border between Carterton and Masterton on the Carterton side. It's an important site for the Wairarapa region-wide because of the level of jobs that it provides effectively and some key employers there. And at the moment, it's drawing potable water from Masterton to use as processed water on the site when really it's not required. So Carterton is leading this project, Carterton District Council, with support from Kanoa, the provincial investment business unit from MB, and we've been able to foster those connections, and now Carterton is that's on the water side, like those or on area.
Well, just any water-related questions for Matt and Tash? No, carry on.
There we go. So moving on to food and fiber, so that activity started last year with some connections into the sector and an analysis of what the needs are. We've been able in the last 2 quarters to actually confirm priorities. I don't think they will come as a shock to anybody. There are issues with productivity. There is a need for more diversification to create resilience for the sector, and obviously access to specialized skills is also a challenge for people in the food and fiber sector. I'll specify that we look at food and fiber at large, so it includes producing things from the land, but also transforming that, the logistics side of it, and everything that it entails. So, excuse me. In the last 2 quarters, we have confirmed actions that we will take. There are 4 around capability, workforce development, value creation, and then the future growth of the sector. And in the near term, we'll start with capability, with piloting a series of events to actually raise the capability of the sector and identify those firms across the region, whether they are farms or part of the processing or logistics, that actually want to have an increased activity and increased role to create more employment across the region. But at the moment, what we're hearing is that there are needs for foundational skills to actually come into those businesses. That before being able to grow, people need to make sure that they have their house in order and have a solid base to build from. So that's what we're doing. I say we generously. That's what Tash is working on right now, alongside Business Wairarapa and consulting with our wider networks in the food and fiber sector to make sure that we are actually getting this right, and we'll be looking to start delivering events hopefully later this quarter, and then also in Q4, excuse me, and continuing from there. On to skills.
With regards to what you just said with regards to food and fibre, I'm curious as to when there's the concern there about being able to actually manage in the new or the areas that you're or that is being produced, is there still the work? So is there still, are they looking at employing? Because it's one thing to say we're needing them to be employed, or we're needing, you know, more people to understand what those roles are. But if the businesses haven't got enough of that original support, then they may not be able to afford to take on the employees. So, you know, that's kind of like a bigger scope, I guess. But I'm curious as to what you kind of think from that side, because it can be a two-edged sword sometimes.
I think that's exactly right. And that's why we are looking at that foundational level of support to make sure that the businesses have the resilience that they need first to weather the ups and downs, because there are ups and downs, probably down at the minute. But building resilience during that time is actually really important so that people actually make it through, and that when the wind picks up again, they are ready to scale when they need to. It's also looking at the longer term picture. So our role isn't really to help people fight fires. Like we can do that, or we're happy to do that if we can. But it's more looking at how do you actually build your medium to long term prospects. What is your objective as a business? And for some, it will not be growing. It will not be creating more employment, and that's absolutely fine. But what we'd like to do is give people the possibility to do that if they wish, and have a level of profitability and resilience that enables them to make that decision. So part of the series, we hope, will enable us to identify those businesses that have greater aspirations, and then probably shape a different program for them to expand and create.
Thank you. Councillor Pauli and then Councillor Bosley.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Been a very good report so far. But just in terms of the wine industry, which is quite a big part of your food and fibre, are you doing anything to work with the wine marketing groups, looking at the implications of the big change in a demographic shift for consuming wine, that it's an older group which is appreciating the lack of desire for the niche quality products, which has been a concentration in the past?
We're still designing this series. What we have become aware of is that there is a need, and wine might be the exception there, but generally speaking, across food and fiber and Wairarapa, there's a need for creating higher value opportunities and looking at how to bring the producers closer to the consumers so that more of the margin is retained by the producers. So we'll probably design the series to touch on how to define your target market, how to build your marketing, how to build your brand, but the kind of initiative that you mentioned could become relevant in the future as we get to know specific needs within the sector and its respective subsectors more accurately.
Sort of future proofing, that's what I was thinking.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anything?
Councillor Bosley.
Thank you, Chair. Reports like this are interesting. This is essentially 5 months old, so it's great at telling us what was happening September of last year. But could the four actions you said, capability, what were the other three?
That we are taking.
Yeah, you said 4 actions, you expanded on capability, but I missed the other 3 words.
Expanding capability because it's the first cab of the ranks.
Yeah.
Workforce development. The next one, we don't have a proper name for it. I called it value creation. So it's that point I made just now around helping people in the sector actually increase effectively their profitability, potentially through something like brand awareness or like a Wairarapa producer brand maybe, but we're not sure exactly what the solution is.
You don't know what it is. Okay, yep.
And the last one is future growth prospects. So it's that longer term for the sector as a whole. Like what is it that's needed? And we don't have the answer to that.
You don't know that either. So you know the first one, okay.
Correct, yes, that's been prioritized. The guidance from the steering group has been actually pick this one because it's the one that we can run with right now, start creating that impact, particularly in those conditions that aren't great for the sector right now, provide that space they need most.
Thank you.
But we want to carry on to the...
Sure. So the last area is skills development. That's a fairly mature area. The Wairarapa Skills Leadership Group was established in 2020, which is actually quite a while ago now, before COVID and then through COVID and then after COVID. So it's gone through a lot. It's a group that has representation from a number of employment sectors, including food and fiber, but also manufacturing, construction, the tech sector, health, and a couple of others that I feel bad about forgetting. And those sectors have leads around the table. So that's the demand side of employment. There's also the supply side through education. So we've got a school principal, we've got UCOL represented, we've got support organizations like RIP Wairarapa, Youth to Work, and so on and so forth. And it's actually a wonderful group to be part of that we are very pleased to be able to support. There is a Wairarapa Workforce Action Plan. The group about a year ago suggested that it needed a bit of a refresh to reflect the current state of things better and looking at what systemic change might be required over time as well. So we are supporting the group through the refresh process. The plan is nearing completion, and we're looking at initiatives that will come into the plan both for this financial year and future financial years as well. A number of them are already under delivery. Attract, Connect, Stay, attracting a health workforce to the region. I don't think it will be a surprise to anybody that we could use more doctors and nurses in but then for them to stay as well. And so probably means coming here with their families. And so it means that everybody's in a job and a school and a place to live in a community to become part of. That's what the group is working on with our support. There's a digital fluency program running in schools, which I understand Karanui College is looking at joining later this academic year. There's also a professional development program for workforce leaders around the region. It's been identified there are a number of volunteers and trusts that drive activity in that space, and that they would appreciate the tide lifting all of their respective boats. That's been really successful. There's been a few events.
5 events, yep, prior to Christmas, one to come in March.
With a good level of attendance.
Yeah.
Which has been really pleasing. So I think the group is actually looking at setting up additional events. We're supporting the Wairarapa Wide Career event, Umangatsu Taro, which is coming up in March, and also supporting workforce development for Maori businesses through Maori Business Wairarapa. I'll stop there for the delivery of activity under the WETS work program. Take a pause before I briefly touch on other Wellington NZ activities in the region. The WETS work, I think in summary, it's been a busy first year moving into the new operational model. That's been really successful, and the steering group is working well. It's still forming. We've only had 3 meetings, but we're on a good path, and that 3-year MOU sets up in a good position to actually progress those work streams and have a meaningful impact. So I look forward to providing you with Q3 report and coming back.
Perfect. Thank you. Very thorough report, very thorough summary. So thank you. The Mayor does have a question for you. Well,
it's partly an observation.
Perfect. We'll take it.
We'll come to a question. Thank you. So my observation is that when I read through this, I read about planning, I read about scoping, something is planned, something is scoped, something is planned, something is scoped. And we're going to have a meeting. And I have to say, I find that a little bit disappointing. I mean, we are actually halfway through the year following, not to mention that these things have been around for longer than that. And meetings and plannings don't necessarily lead to economic growth. And I would have thought with some of the things that have been done, so for example, the 7 secondary schools that participated in the digital fluency program, I'd like to know what some of the outcomes of some of these things are. And I would also like to see some critical evaluation of some of those outcomes as well. because I would have a sneaking suspicion that when it comes to a lot of programs for a certain group of secondary school students, that they may or may not do well, but I have no way of knowing that. But assuming that they have learned something, have they actually learned it in a way that is applicable to what I'll call economic growth? Or have they just taken that learning off and gone to university and helped the economic growth of Auckland and Otago? And I think I could say a similar comment about a number of the other issues here. So, for example, with the Wainawa water security, apparently construction has started and progress is when estimates. I mean, that is actually very vague, and I would have thought it would have been quite possible to have said, this is actually what we have done. This is how close we are to providing a new water provision for the industrial park. And these are the industries that can grow as a result of that. So my overall observation is that there's too much what I will call inputting in the report. There's not enough of the outcoming. And I think even though the amount of money possibly that this council puts in is modest, nevertheless, we are hoping to see something called economic development. We're hoping to see growth. We're hoping to see new things happening. And in that sense, my question is there something you can do to this report that shows the outcomes?
The short answer is yes. And it's been flagged by the steering group as well that the steering group does want us to be better at presenting both the outcomes of the projects and also the more specific input, to use your word, that we are providing. It's been fed back to us that we are probably too cautious about giving other people the credit rather than taking some for our direct contribution to specific projects as well. So we are providing direct action and meaningful inputs in terms of working hours and budget support to all of these actions that are led by others. Yes, the credit goes to the people who lead the work. In some cases, it's ourselves, but our support is key. I mean, I'll give you some examples. The Attract, Connect, Stay program, which is looking at bringing doctors here and the professional development side of things, that's being led by a trust that's been established because basically Dash did 80% of the work to establish the trust. So,
sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but we have gone quite over time on your report. So I would just reflect on the Mayor's sentiment that for us as councillors, and I would imagine in other councils as well, that focus on outcomes and some specifics around, your hours and things like that would certainly help us moving forward. All of the information you provide is valuable, but being able to drill down into the bits that you actually do and the outcomes that are actually being made in the economic development space would be.
I agree. We'll take that.
So, thank you very much for your report, for your time, and we look forward to
If I may just mention briefly, it's been so I won't take any more of your time. We have also provided 2 reports on the wider Wellington NZ activities across Wairarapa, supporting the Dark Sky Steering Group, the 5 Towns Trail network and connecting that into the regional trails, as well as workforce activity, business growth support, connecting to the spin sector, Māori economic development, and major event support for the region. We're always happy to be there. Dash lives here. I'm here almost every week at the minute and very happy to come and present again and drill down with any of you if there's more information you'd like about any points of which.
Thank you so much. So let's us back to 11.2, which is the Destination Wairarapa quarterly reporting with Anna.
Okay.
Related to the work that we're doing. The board and also regarding the discussion paper, which came in.
Sorry, can I just double check that all three reports, so your quarterly report, Business Wairarapa report and your members report, Fran, will all be presented?
Yes,
collectively.
okay, Madam Chair.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Brilliant, Chair, no help.
Sorry, I didn't do that in a particularly one. So, well,
Can I get you to each introduce yourself, position in your organisation?
And which bit we're talking about.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will start and accept your invitation. I'm here on behalf of Roger Wigglesworth, who is actually the chair of Destination Wairarapa and couldn't be here, sends his apology. And I'm your new member that we appointed. Thank you for the appointment last year. Nicola and Anna are regular visitors, I think, so you probably know them, but I'll pass over to Anna for the Destination Wairarapa report.
Kia ora, Nicola. Kia ora. I'm Anna Nielsen, goes on screen. I am the CE for Destination Wairarapa, and you have our last two quarterly reports in front of you there. The reports are based on the activity that we've done in the last 6 months, seeing the marketing efforts that we have done. I always give an update on spend and visitation and trends and that sort of thing to sort of give an idea of where we're heading, and usually have a comment about what the future might be holding as well. I know that we're on limited time, so I'm going to, unless you'd like me to present what's in the contents, to open it up for questions.
So I think you can take the report as read, but certainly members have got any questions for Anna, specifically to her quarterly report. Brilliant.
Thank you. Well, thanks, Anna, and thank you for your report. I suppose my question is just following up from a comment I just made to the previous presenters. What would you anticipate we will see different, say, in 5 years' time in the local tourism area?
That is a very good question. Gosh, from a national perspective, as you know, the government has set big targets for export, bringing more people into the region. But it's simply bums on seats for planes, and that is Tourism New Zealand's job, to attract as many people as they can to the region. We have a Wairarapa Destination Management Plan, as you all know, which was the summer budget, which talks about growing sustainably in line with what our community wants and expects. And they've told us that they're happy with tourism and the growth of tourism, but not our culture, our way of life, or our environment. So I think the really important thing is to be mindful of what the community has told us. And while it's important to increase export earnings for the country in tourism, we're in an enviable position compared to some other regions where we can manage growth going forward as opposed to try and chase it from behind. So I'd like to think in 5 years' time, as we're bringing these more visitors into New Zealand and more export dollars, we're making sure that the environment here is suitable and well set up for the visitors we want to see in our region and who want to engage with our community. And that's going to take management. We can't just let it happen, because we've seen that happen in other regions and it's been a disaster.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you. Good response. Councillor Olds, do you have a question for Anna?
No, I just, I guess just wanted to make a comment and an observation about Destination Wairarapa and Business Wairarapa working closely together. It's something that is quite refreshing, and it's something that will assist not only from a tourism and accommodation perspective, but also from an employment opportunities perspective as well. So just an observation. Thanks.
Thank you. Can I just to follow that up? I mean, it was a no-brainer. We're a marketing organisation. We would like to do more in the area of product development and regional development and tourism, and we'd like to do more in the capability growing area of business in our industry. And it just made sense to align work with Business Wairarapa For example, the Waihost product that's been developed, we did that in conjunction together, and it's been really successful, and it's worked well for our industry exceptionally well. And I think it's a nice relationship to understand how we can benefit one another.
Okay.
Yes, just a question. You've got the largest expenditure by tourists, considerable amount in Masterton. Would that be accommodation? Because are there a lot of tourist events or retail? Oh, right, okay.
Essentially with Masterton, you know, if you're perhaps coming north to south and you're coming to stay in your Airbnb or whatever it is in Martinborough, so you're getting your groceries or you're getting your petrol in Masterton. That's what happens.
Yeah, even though there wouldn't be that many tourist events.
No.
Okay.
No.
It's just purely the transit of people through.
So they're almost missing a trick there.
Yeah.
If there's more accommodation available, perhaps they would stay open.
Yeah.
Councillor Maynard and then Councillor Evans.
Thank you again for your reports, and I always enjoy I like getting into these, so I appreciate the amount of information that you've put in here. I'm just wondering, and I'm curious as to how Destination Wairarapa is looking at it when we're seeing other events that are moving away from Wellington, where we know that we actually have a lot of people that tend to come to stay here. So we get some of that run over that tends to come through. But as we're seeing, like homegrown, things like that, again, moving away from Wellington, that have been big weekend or 2 or 3 day, event. How is that, do we see any kind of impact that that's going to have on us? And I'm just terrified that we might lose things like that is just going to.
You're exactly right. And you can take it another step back. So in Auckland, there's not as many of the big international events happening. As an example, FIFA World Cup last year, because I'm here before, I don't remember where we're up to in the years. The Women's World Cup, we had a lot of spin-off people pre and post the matches at the stadium here as they drove through. And so, yes, when you take things out, events like that, whether it's just in Wellington or it's on a national level and it's coming through the region, that impacts us hugely. And that's where, as an organisation, we work in conjunction with our other RTOs to make sure that we're working the pipeline. This is the Classic New Zealand Wine Trail. I'm in front of Tourism New Zealand next week for 3 hours. That doesn't happen. That's the first time it's happened for a regional group like that. Hawke's Bay, Wairarapa, Wellington and Marlborough. In front of Tourism New Zealand to explain in detail how we can bring more people off peak down State Highway 2 and out State Highway 2 so that we will benefit. So we're constantly working the pipeline, whether it's events, whether it's off-peak season, that's where the relationship is.
Wonderful. Thank you, Anna. So we'll go Councillor Elams and then back to Councillor Olds.
Thanks, Chair. It's great to see reading through the report there that these those positive points from local South Wairarapa operators, the Tora Walk, John or JP, as some of us know him down towards Ngāwi there. And Catherine from Big Sky. It's just great to see that.
Yeah.
Some great feedback coming through on the increase in the activities. But also looking at that card transaction spend over the last 5 years, how the spend in South Wairarapa has increased significantly, whereas the card district is just flatlined. But in that 5-year period of time, that spend for South Y has increased close to 20 mil, and hopefully it's going to keep on climbing.
That's right.
It's only going to benefit the district.
Thank you, Councillor Olds.
Anna, probably this is a little bit of a left field question, but I'm involved in Local Waters Done Well and part of the advisory oversight group, working alongside Mayor Tracy and Tararua. And it's actually quite interesting to look at the dynamics of the Tararua district as against the Wairarapa district. I spoke to Nicola yesterday about Business Wairarapa and perhaps it's looking at some form of relationship with Tararua. Does Destination Wairarapa see that as an opportunity moving forward in the future, or is it just something that would focus on the local water supply?
Yeah, we are actually already moving. And the, and also the Tui Brewery as well.
Okay.
But those two are tourist
Destinations.
And then by default, because we work so closely on the international market with Hawke's Bay on the classic New Zealand, we're bringing people through or up through Tararua, so we kind of unofficially work in that space anyway.
Okay, that's fine. That's
good to know.
Right, so we'll move with this way, Nicola. Perfect.
Kia ora koutou. My name's Nicola Belsham. I'm General Manager of Business Wairarapa, the district-wide Chamber of Commerce. You received my report as an additional item after the agenda was sent out, so I hope you've had time to read that. I'll take it as read. Before I take any questions or comments on that report, I'd just like to point to in terms of results or outcomes, a growth in membership and engagement through our businesses. This district engagement is king because engagement allows us to develop ground up capability for the businesses that we represent. Our role is to help people put out fires, and it's through engagement that we can design tailored products and services for the businesses to help grow those businesses and grow economic growth. So if you have any comments or questions, I happily take them.
Any comments, questions for Nicola? Councillor Olds.
Thanks, Nicola. The business model that Business Wairarapa adopted in terms of combining, or not so much the memberships of various other groups there, has that been a successful venture?
It's been a huge success, and it's also something that other chambers of commerce are looking to adopt for themselves, in particular Kapiti Chamber of Commerce. We are a little bit unusual in that we have 3 district councils within 40 kilometres, 5 distinct hyperlocal sub-regions, each with very strong identities and branding, and each with their own business association, notwithstanding other associations such as Māori in Business, Wairarapa, Wairarapa Women's Business Network, etc., etc. So we don't want to eat everyone's lunch. I see our role as a Chamber of Commerce, if we truly were representing business, we would be representing every business regardless of membership and delivering capability to every business. Of course, we're still a chamber with a volunteer board and 1 contractor, so I do like to get paid. As such, we've dispersed with the membership model. We operate on the levy model, but our strength is our database, and that database has been really, I guess, demonstrated its power when it came to things like the Huriradrome survey last year. So we had over 700 responses to that. As a business collective, we currently represent around 500 businesses, so that's about 7% of all businesses in Wairarapa. We have 6,400 businesses. That includes all our farming businesses, Ngawi to Ekatuna, keeping in mind that farms see themselves as farms, not as businesses. So we're really proud that we can represent as many businesses as possible, and it's continuing to grow. Our sub-regional business associations such as Featherston, Martinborough, Carterton, Masterton are all growing in membership, as is Destination Wairarapa, because people like the collaboration. It's a no-brainer. We travel to Masterton every week, several times a week, sometimes a couple of times a day for myself. But to get a Masterton business to come down to South Wairarapa is an event that needs accommodation booked. So it's really important that we work in what I call collaboration.
Yeah, thanks for that, Nicola.
Great.
Say that the model you have working here is small but mighty.
Mm.
That's like you say, there's just the one of you. But you are covering a massive geography.
Yeah.
You're doing great work, and I think your regional business awards are a good testament to that as well. Like you're putting on an event that is, is comparable with the metros.
Yeah, and I think it's important to add there. Thank you it's important to add there that because we're not based on membership fees as such as just a levy, that support that we receive from the councils is fundamentally important. It's also important to have great relationships. We're very fortunate to have a great relationship with Ngā Taota at Wellington NZ, but also it's so important for us to demonstrate that value and attract independent business sponsorship as well. As I say, out of those 6,400 businesses, only 33 employ more than 50 people. So attracting that sponsorship is the challenge.
Well done. Any other questions for Nicola? Thank you, Nicola. Thank you for your report. That's to you.
Kia ora tātou, everybody. Thank you, Madam Chair. You got the paper. It was a late paper. Apologise for that. Just want to acknowledge, thank you, Paul, for helping us get that. There was a little bit of a snafu. So this paper has come about from some work that we have done jointly as two groups, and I just need to say that our boards both endorse the paper. So it's quickly. It speaks for itself, won't go through it again, but basically we think we could be more efficient, we could be more effective by getting better outcomes if we actually had more of this delivery within the same organisation. It would not necessarily include everything. For instance, the water work that the councils are doing, at some stage the councils will make a decision about the vehicle that they want to carry that forward. But in terms of economic development generally, we have already had in Wairarapa a few years ago, commissioned by the councils, the Martin Jenkins report. So we think there's no need to replicate that. The question is whether there is an appetite to do or take up the recommendation of that report, which was to have a single EDA. If you look at the current situation, there are multiple groups. The governance is quite interesting. There are this trust incorporated society steering groups for Africa. Everybody's got a steering group, and the councils are involved in most of those. So there's a lot of work being put in by different people, and a lot of churn going on. But the reality is that there are multiple dependencies between all of these groups. So for if you talk to Anna about what Destination Wairarapa needs, we need good product development. We can't, that's not our mandate, we can't do that. But if we don't get that, if the dark sky reserves idea doesn't become bigger and stronger, and it is one of the most amazing things we have here, then that's not going to help us in terms of our international or national delivery of attracting more people. Same for the chamber. They've got the 6,400 businesses. All tourism organisations are businesses. So in the end, people are talking about bottom line and then economic growth for the region, more jobs, more profit. So we would like the councils to look at this proposal jointly. We would help if we're required. We're very happy to be involved, but it has to be driven by the three councils because they own so much of the kind of human infrastructure and the organisational infrastructure. But obviously it has to involve the private sector as well. So we're suggesting that this can be done relatively quickly. This is not something that needs 2 or 3 years of cogitation. We think in the coming financial year it could be designed and delivery could be started. It may start a little smaller than we want with some growth plans, but let's get onto it and not have this massive fragmentation that we have now in terms of the delivery of all of these different work streams. As I said, a lot of those interdependencies, which now are quite difficult to manage, and they would be much easier if they were within the same organisation. So that's really all, unless Nicola or Anna, do you want to say anything else? It's board or
just the key thing is that people are already doing the work in the region. It's just the structure that's perhaps failing.
Yes. And I don't think there's any more money. We need to, I should have said that. Money will always be scarce. But if we had it all on the same table, we'd know what it was. It could actually probably be a bit more efficient in terms of it and from that. And then I think you grow the money later when people see and it's more transparency about what's happening.
I think too, with sharing some resource, we have a better communication, a better brand to sell Wairarapa and to attract businesses
That's
here
stronger.
and people here.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the idea of stronger together.
Stronger together.
Councillor Maynard.
This is actually, Glenn, it's really cool to actually see all of you there together. Because, you know, that to me does speak wide enough white. So that's that's great impact, looking good. So, but the other thing that I'm just wondering when it comes to this, because we did have WEDs and there was also a strategy that had been written and there had been money put into that. And I just, you know, so from that, we have that work, we have this report, the Martin Jenkins report as well. Is there a way to look at what, you know, and now we're wanting to see what that structure looks like? How do you see the council, like the South Wairarapa District Council, actually helping with regards to that? What that structure, are you wanting to bring something to us, or what can we do to, you know, to understand, or are we meant to say to you what we want the structure to look like?
Thank you for the question. It goes to the heart of what we're suggesting really, which is that the three councils should collaborate and work together and design an optimal structure. We're not suggesting a particular structure, but we do know that form follows function, and you've got a strategy already. The strategy is there. We need something, a vehicle to deliver it that is actually more effective and more efficient than the multiple ones we have now. So it would include the WEDs, remnants of that, what all of us at this table are doing, put them together and other things as well, and actually find an appropriate way of doing that suits everybody, that's going to be better for the outcomes for Wairarapa.
And I know that Nicola and I are both really open to working with each of the council executives that we work closely with really to discuss what is the best way forward here and maybe develop it and then bring it up.
Yeah, I have two questions. One is, have you started sort of socialising this information, for a better word, with your members or businesses to present?
The survey results that was an appendix in my report asked some questions about what businesses wanted to see happen in Wairarapa that would include growing their businesses, and they didn't use the A word, Melissa, but they did use certainly as more combining collaboration between the councils. I see it all as a linear relationship with all of our partners rather than a hierarchical relationship.
And my next question is, given the speed at which things take place within local government, do we think that perhaps a top-down approach, so a design element by your organisations presented back to council, be much faster? I fear that if it is left with the three councils to design, we could.
Sorry. Yeah, I was meeting the executives and the staff that we work with within the council. So our key contacts, I know that Rob has moved on, but whoever replaces him, then we're sitting with us, and Matt Steele, who's Masterton, Glenda, Carterton, they're all open to this. We've talked about it amongst ourselves and gone, well, why don't we get in the room and go, how's this going to, this what the thing.
Yeah, I think it's a fabulous idea. I'd love to see it happen. I just don't want it to drag on unnecessarily. Have you socialised this with the other councils? Or are the
Not the council elected, it's the
we're the first council.
management. Yes.
Could I just add to Anna's comment just very quickly? Glenda, Matt, Anna, myself, Rob, we're all cross-pollinate all the same things. We're in the dark skies, in the Wairarapa Schools Leadership supports us heavily, but we're all in those groups that we've talked about. So I sit on the trust of the Attracting Health Workforce. I was interim chair for the Wairarapa Schools Leadership Group.
I'm involved in all the trails, whether it's Mataksai.
Like I say, it makes
Guys.
No, it's a no-brainer, right? I think we can all agree that we're.
Yes, it is. It's not.
Yes, no, thank you for the paper, and yes, I agree. It certainly does make sense, and makes even more sense if it's coming out of the, say, the sort of the grassroots day-to-day collaboration that you're just referring to. The one question I have with when you see a title like the Future of Economic Development in Wairarapa, I did a really stupid thing earlier this week. I took a photograph of some cattle crossing a state highway, and I thought, many of the people I know in Europe and elsewhere would be fascinated by this, to think that you can have cattle crossing a state highway. But I had a bit of a Specsavers moment, and when I put it onto Facebook, I said, "Oh, isn't this interesting? A whole bunch of sheep crossing." Well, I tell you what, within about 20, some people got nothing better to do than look at Facebook, but within about 20 seconds, I had, including some people here, little reminders about my eyesight. But it does bring it home that the largest economic segment in the Wairarapa is the land base, the farming, the agriculture, the fishing, etc. And I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here, but to what extent do you see primary industries being part of it?
Involved, very involved. They have to be, because you're right, they are our primary industry too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's work being done now by arable farmers, for example, which would come into this. They would be they're reliant on the irrigation, on a potential irrigation scheme that may not be in this, but at least you'd have one bigger organisation trying to manage that all together. And also for tourism, the farming sector is critical, because that's what people come here to see.
Yes.
But the wine, the primary sector, all of those should be working together.
In terms of representing those businesses, it comes back to collaboration, working with Natasha in the food and fibre component of the council priorities, designing capability training. There is a challenge in converting the mindset that a farm is a business, that our collaborations and networks and partnerships are growing and expanding.
And I think there's an opportunity. We tend to just look at Wellington NZ as our EA, but too has Agritech, and it's the work that's going on there. It's so in line with what we could work with, and which could help our primary industries either end of the value chain. That there's an opportunity to also look to them for support, assistance, collaboration.
So that would be critical, actually, in terms of the development of industry here. We actually need more businesses here and doing different things. We need to grow the base, both upwards and outwards.
Thank you, ladies. I think they've been 3 fantastic reports, and I think the use of collaboration and seeing you present together is the way forward. My personal opinion, but we look forward to progress in that direction.
So thank you, Madam Chair. And what we would like from you, the ask is that you will endorse your CEO to authorise the officials to continue to do this. That's what we need. And then we will be asking the other councils also to agree that there is work done on this. Otherwise, it's a bit subterranean. We don't want it to be unofficial.
Yeah.
So the hiccup to that is that we don't currently have a resolution or a decision report.
Yeah.
I say the speed at which things work within council, but for the next meeting, we could absolutely have a decision paper to that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies.
You're welcome.
Colin must need a break.
I can't.
You must need a break.
That being the case, we will break for lunch. We are running a few minutes ahead of time, but we will take till 12:40.
Okay.
Well done, everybody.